So thank you so much for joining us this morning for our SBB University program. Today we're going to be talking about the different types of senior living options that are available for you here in the Southwest Florida area. Up on my left-hand corner, which may not be your left-hand corner, is Miss Rachel Henderson. She is the Community Director of Outreach for the Terraces at Bonita Springs. Rachel, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So again, I'm the Director of Community Outreach here at the Terraces. I have 20 plus years in this industry, anywhere from being a nurse to being the Executive Director. So the Terraces is a CCRC here in Bonita Springs, and I worked very, very closely with Amanda. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. All right, Mark, I always like to make sure I don't screw up anyone's last name. And this is kind of a private joke between Mark and myself. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as the new executive director at Aston Gardens at Pelican Marsh?
Thank you, Amanda, for the introduction. Amanda does struggle with my last name. So my last name is pronounced Trepanier. It is a French name. And Amanda struggles with the French pronunciation.
Yeah.
But I have been at Aston Gardens now for almost 9 months, actually. I still consider myself new until approximately 1 year in. However, I have been in the senior living world for a little over 5 years. My background before senior living was much more hospitality oriented. I worked in the golf club industry and the country club industry for many, many, many years. However, 5-6 years ago, decided to make a change, and I am ecstatic and very excited about that change. I worked on the East Coast of Florida for almost 4 years in Delray Beach and decided to relocate to Naples for this position at Aston Gardens at Pelican Marsh in Naples. I'm the executive director here, and I absolutely love it. So please, I hope this is informative, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. All right, we have Mr. Rich Chickalo joining us from Comfort Keepers, Director of Business Development. How are you this morning, Rich?
I am doing wonderful, Amanda. Thank you. As always, it's always a pleasure to be on SBB University. Our favorite advertiser, of course, we are big fans of Seniors Blue Book here at Comfort Keepers. They tremendously support our business, and I don't know where we'd be without them. So thank you, Amanda. I am Rich Chickalo, Director of Business Development with Comfort Keepers. I've been with Comfort Keepers for about a year and a half now. We're a private duty home care agency. We have no minimums. We accept long-term care insurance, and we're a member of the Veterans Association. And we do everything from companion care, like light housekeeping, med reminders, all that stuff, to personal care, mobility assistance, bathing, and things of that nature. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from New York. Surprise, surprise, if you don't hear that in my voice so already. But I've been down in Florida for about 15 years now, and I absolutely love it. So happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us today, Rich. All right, Tammy Paxton over at Brookdale, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for including me. This will be my first panel, so I'm excited about that. I'm at Brookdale Assisted Living. We have independent living, assisted living, and they keep promising we might have memory care soon. So I'm kind of excited about that. I've been in this industry less than a year, about 10 months.
Okay.
And I love it. I came from hospitality.
Welcome to the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. I was a director of sales at Holiday Inn Express for several years. And so this is a great change for me. I feel like I have a purpose and I love it. I'm really glad to be here.
It's amazing how the industries really do marry each other, because I was in real estate prior to this, and hospitality in general, I think, is something that, you know, we're all here to serve seniors. So it really does all complement each other. So it's a good segue to what you're doing now. All right, Miss Melissa, how are you this morning? It's another last name that I refuse to attempt, just as Mark. But I think I actually got it right last time.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. Good morning. Sorry, I hopped on a little late. I was on a call. Anyway, my name is Melissa. Everybody calls me Mel. I'm the sales director here at Inspired Living in Bonita Springs. And I suppose we're just talking a little bit about our experience. Is that right?
Right now we're doing introductions, and then we're going to move to the discussion.
Well, I've been in the industry for about 8 years. Prior to that, I've really been in healthcare for over 20. I am also a respiratory therapist, a trained and certified respiratory therapist. So I come to this industry with healthcare background, with direct patient care. I moved from Tampa roughly about 5 months ago, and I'm loving Bonita Springs, but I'm missing my Tampa.
Yeah.
My family's all back there, but absolutely glad to be here and getting to know the area.
Well, wonderful.
Thank you.
I
Thank
know
you for having me.
you and your executive director have such great synergy, so it's nice to have a wonderful team. So I think hopefully that makes you a little less homesick.
Yeah, it does. It does.
All right, well, we'll kick this off. Today, we're kind of going to go in chronological order of care. So we'll start with Rich, because when you're at home and you're aging in place and you have an injury or something to that effect, and you may need home health care. Talk to us about the differences between private duty and home care and home health through Medicare, and how the two of you really work together, again, with that, using the word marriage, how you work together with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to start off with that. First off, the biggest difference between private duty home care and home health Medicare is doctor's orders. In order to get home health Medicare, you need a doctor's order. You do not need doctor's orders for private duty home care. We do work together. I mean, it really is a great partnership between private duty home care and home health. And the ways that we work together are, say you get a doctor's order for wound care. Well, Medicare might only cover one treatment of wound care. So maybe in the morning, home health comes and they do their one little bandage and their treatment for the one thing, and that's it. But maybe before, at the end of the day, you need to get some fresh bandages on there. Well, Medicare is not going to cover another thing. So what could you do? You can call private duty. We fill in the gaps where home health can't do, and we kind of offer assistance in between those times when maybe a physical therapist or an OT or any of those people cannot be there. So that's the biggest difference between private duty and home health, and kind of how we work together.
I always say that the Medicare agency isn't going to walk my dog for me. That was
No, they're not. Unless there's a doctor's order.
yeah. We're gonna have to find a doctor for that. Now, when you meet with a client, you come up with a care plan. Talk to us about what a care plan is and how you use that to match people up with the perfect caregiver for them.
Absolutely. We always say that there are no two care plans alike. Every care plan is individualized, specific to the person that we're treating at that time. And basically, a care plan is almost like a game plan or a blueprint for how the care is going to be executed. So it always starts with a free home assessment. We have our client care coordinators come out, they sit down, they talk with the client and the family of the client, and they ask about what their needs are immediately. So, what daily activities do you need help with? So some may need help getting in and out of bed, or maybe it's just bathing they have issues with, or some of those household chores become a little bit more daunting for them. So they need some little assistance with that. So that all goes in the care plan. Now, why it's important, any other medical issues that they might have, medication reminders, all that goes into a care plan that is given to the family. So the family knows what the expectations are from the private duty home care. And it also goes to the caregiver. And that's really important because the caregiver needs to know, why are they coming in there? What are they there to do? And it basically, a care plan is an accountability measure.
Exactly.
It makes us accountable for the actions of the caregiver, and that's really the most important thing that a care plan is. And like I said, it's very specific to the person, and based off of that credentials, for us, we can sit there and say, okay, this is a great fit for you. We're gonna give you with X, Y, and Z because she's really talkative and you need companion care.
Right.
Or we're going to give you this caregiver because you don't like the interactions. You just want somebody to help with some of the household chores. So it really helps the home care agency provide the ideal fit for a caregiver.
No, I like that. It's really is about accountability, and it makes sure everybody's expectations are being met, not only the client, but also the caregiver. So very good. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Kind of moving in chronological order, I'm going to go with Rachel over at the Terraces, because when you're considering a continuing care retirement community, there are a couple of things that you have to have, and one of those is you have to have the financial capability and the healthcare capability to move into a community such as that. So it's the sooner the better when you're starting to look for that. So Rachel, talk to us about the different types of CCRCs that are out there and what makes the Terraces, that A-type community, one that may be a little more desirable.
Sure. So what CCRC stands for is Continuum Care Retirement Community. So there's actually 3 or 4 different types of contracts. The Terraces actually is a type A. It generally means that there would be a higher entrance fee. The monthly fee would stay the same throughout the continuum. And then there's strict medical, like you said, Amanda, there's medical acceptance. So a good friend of ours always says it's better to be 5 years too early than 5 minutes too late. So you want to make those decisions early on. Generally, the population that, comes to the Terraces, they're planners. They know they want to know what their future looks like, and they want to make sure that they're getting cared for. So with the CCRC, you have you have independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled. And again, there's all types of contracts. There's a type A, there's a type B modified, and a type C. And those all means that they're different levels on how or what you want your future to look like.
So with a type B modified contract, for example, you're going to come in with a lower entrance fee, right, Rachel? But your actual monthly expenses are going to be more and potentially unpredictable, because when you are ready for that next phase of assisted living or memory care or skilled, you're going to get a discount on the care, but it's not guaranteed like it would be in a type A.
Yeah, it's not going to be paid in full. So
right.
If you're looking for a service and a facility that, or a resort, so to say, or assisted living, you want to look at a CCRC type A.
Yeah. And then that type C is really unique. It's a continuing care retirement community that still has an entrance fee and a monthly fee, but when you need care, you're paying market rate. There's no discounts. So
yeah,
it's an interesting.
If you're going to pay a lower entrance fee, you're going to pay per diem, and there's little medical acceptance. So again, it's really what you're looking for and how well you want your future planned.
Yeah, definitely want to ask those questions when you're out there, folks. So, all right, we're going to jump over to Mark, who is representing independent living, and Aston Gardens has a brand new, beautiful independent living community. So, Mark, do you want to tell us, when you're going into independent, you don't have that entrance fee. You have what's called a community fee. Do you want to talk about what that is, and then what's included, for instance, in your rent with an independent living community?
So thank you, Amanda. And I've worked in I worked at a CCRC prior to moving to Naples and Aston Gardens, so I understand a little bit of the nuances that Rachel's referring to. We have a very nominal, small community fee for someone who moves into our community. It's a small amount just to make that connection with the community and commit to the community. The larger part of the fees are related to the monthly fees. And yes, we don't have an entrance fee. So we have monthly fees. We're an all-inclusive community, whether that be in our independent living. We also have assisted living and memory care on our campus. So we're an all-inclusive. And what that means is that 99% of the amenities, of the activities, of what you will require at the community is included in your monthly fee. What I like about Aston Gardens at Pelican Marsh and a community like ours is that it allows flexibility for residents when they're considering a potential change and a potential move. Instead of being committed with a larger entrance fee, they have the flexibility of paying the small community fee and then their monthly fee. And if something changes in their lives down the road, whether that be in a year, 2 years, or 5 years, they can they can make a change, they can make a move. We do see some of our residents, as they age, consider maybe moving back to family members or closer to family members that might be out of state in another area. So a community like ours allows them that flexibility. From an amenity standpoint, you mentioned that we're the new Aston Gardens. We've invested we should be done in the next 2 months. So by the end of April, everything should be completed for our independent living. We will have invested approximately $5 million in the campus. Most of that money has gone to the amenities, refurbishing our clubhouse, our dining, our culinary venue. We'll have a brand new theater, new auditorium, new fitness center, new salon, and a renovated and improved pool and exterior area. So we're really excited about what's happening at our community right now. And the amenities that you'll get at a community like Aston Gardens would be very similar to a continuing care retirement community close by.
Yeah, I definitely would call it the new Aston Gardens. That's a facelift like no other, 5 million remodel. Now, one of the questions I know the folks out there are asking is when they live in an independent living community such as yours, are they able to utilize services such as Rich's company like Comfort Keepers? Are they able to stay in their apartment and utilize those services?
Back to the flexibility portion of living in a community like ours, the answer is yes. Residents that live in our independent living area are allowed to use home health care or private duty care. They can use, we have a division of our company that provides those services, but they could use someone like Comfort Keepers to provide those services. We have residents, once they move into their independent living apartment and get used to the surroundings, that's really where they want to live forever. Basically, they don't want to move. So if they require some help in the home, whether that be private duty or Medicare home health care, they can get that service and those services in their apartment. We have residents that have basically lived their entire lives in their independent living apartment, and they bring care in when necessary.
Right. Is this a great opportunity where they wouldn't necessarily have to move from apartment to apartment? And we're going to give everybody a chance to answer another round of questions because I'm going to come back to Rachel on that one as well. But let's go ahead and bounce down to Tammy, who is representing the assisted living side of things. So Tammy, let me ask you something. I know we talk about in healthcare, there are a ton of acronyms in our industry. One of those is our CCRC, which we've already determined is a continuing care retirement community. But talk to me about what an ADL is.
There's several. There's feeding, there's continence, there's transferring, there's toileting, showering. It's just your activities of daily living, just normal things that are getting more difficult for you now, like getting in the shower without falling, transferring to the toilet from a wheelchair, taking your medication. Those are ADLs.
Okay, perfect. And how does a community look at that as a whole and determine how they're going to base your fee structure?
Well, we do everything a la carte. So when I have a potential resident come in, we do an assessment with our nurse and we kind of look at what they need. First, what they tell us, and what they tell us is not always everything. So, right. So the nurse does her assessment. We do one in the beginning, one every 2 weeks, actually. And we assess their needs and they're billed accordingly. Like showering and toileting might be 102 if it's just general assistance,
Right.
like setting up for it. But if you need physical assistance, like an actual shower where we assist you in that shower physically, it goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes up based on how involved we get.
Okay, perfect. And the next question, and I'm just going to keep going with the acronyms here. So in the assisted living world, there are a ton of acronyms for the different type of licenses that are out there. You have your S, your LNS, your ECC. Talk to us about the different type of licenses and why one may be more expensive than the other.
Well, our type of license that I can speak to intelligently is the LNS license, which gives us limited nursing services, which is a little better than your average AL, assisted living, that we have a higher nursing license. We can do a little bit more like tubing, catheters, things of that nature that other assisted livings may not be able to do, which cost a little more because the nurse has to have more licensure. So, but that has benefited us a lot, having the LNS license.
Yeah, definitely. So every community, every assisted living community in the state of Florida is going to start with a standard license. They all have to have.
Right, standard license, that's correct.
Yeah, so having that step up with the LNS is fantastic. And your next step is the ECC, which is Extended Congregate Care.
Right, and that's
Go ahead, Tammy.
oxygen services, tube feeding. I don't have that one, so I'm not really familiar with it. So.
Yeah, I'd say your ECC is just a step down from skilled nursing. It's been really interesting to watch the world of healthcare kind of transition to where skilled nursing has become more and more of a temporary rehabilitation center versus a long-term care because of what we can accomplish right in our assisted living communities. So
Right.
the ECC just have to be able to stand and pivot. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, and really the basic difference, I'm sorry, between the LNS one, if you want to simplify that, LNS and the ECC takes the feeding tubes or the PEG tubes. LNS does not. But essentially that's it. It's to simplify it.
Yeah, and the ECC actually requires 24-hour nursing service. So again, having more medical services available.
Perfect. And I think the Terraces, and you do have the ECC in your.
We do.
Okay. Yeah. And then the skilled, of course, as well.
And the way our building is structured makes that quite easy because, like I said, being the continuum of care, we have skilled on campus, we have medical directors on campus, doctors, nurses. So again, the way a CCR is set up, it's easier for staff, of course.
Perfect. Thank you. And Melissa, you are working at an all-inclusive memory care community. So talk to us about some of the things that make an all-inclusive memory care community so inviting, if you will.
Well, first of all, in order to come into memory care, you obviously have to have the diagnosis of dementia, whatever form of dementia, as well as Alzheimer's. And that whole process starts actually from a physician, standpoint in terms of doing the physical exam, diagnostic tests, the neurological exams, the mental status tests, and some of them, obviously have to go through the brain scans. And then once they have the diagnosis, then they can qualify to come into a pure memory care community. I think the beauty of just specializing in that type of care is that it allows us to focus on those folks with dementia. All our folks are dementia trained. I just recently got my CDP, and so certified dementia practitioner, which also I think adds and helps. One of the things that we do here, which I love, is that prior to coming in here, there is this 5-page My Story that has to be completed by future residents. So it really gives us a total picture of a new resident, what their life was before the dementia kicked in, what their likes and dislikes. It's very detailed, but that allows us to get to know the residents very well, and also allows us to provide a more customized, personalized care plan when they come in. Folks with dementia come at all levels: high functioning, middle functioning, and low functioning. And we are prepared to take care of them at any level. And, if you ever had the opportunity to come visit, this building has been designed purposefully. We have a beautiful courtyard in the back that has great walking paths, overlooking the water. And it's been known, and studied with folks with dementia, that the ability to just be outside in the air, getting vitamin D, helps them and actually helps calm them, through those periods of anxiety.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know that when you're dealing with this disease process, all of the activities and entertainment, even, for example, are centered around this disease process. And I know it's a proven study that there's a link between this disease process and the importance of music and music therapy. So talk to me about some of your activities that you guys do over at Inspired at Bonita.
Sure. Well, pre-COVID, obviously we had access to live entertainers and live music, but unfortunately that's changed a little bit. However, we've had to be creative. Obviously there's instruments that we have all over the place, including a piano. So folks maybe that have played the piano have access to that and start playing. We have an interactive system called IN2L, which stands for It's Never Too Late. And it's a big screen TV, but it's been designed by this gentleman whose mother had dementia. He wanted to create an interactive system that would still help his mom connect and slow down the progression of her, cognitive state. And so this IN2L actually allows you to access music, all genres of music, different decades of music, which is pretty awesome. You can access the internet and even, look at whatever. You can Google musical movies, those types of things. You can exercise, right, to different types of music. And in our dining rooms, we encourage music being played during meals. Obviously, because it's also been studied that when they are eating and there's music being played, it just encourages them to eat more. So overall helps in nutrition. And also, as you know, the connection with that is that for folks with Alzheimer's, that part of the brain which retains music memories is typically undamaged, right? So in order for us to stay connected, it's really all about the moments with folks with dementia. Yeah. And you want to stay connected, and it's through music. And that helps in the slowing down of the cognitive decline.
And I'll be the first to admit that I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but I can lyrics to any song.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very calming. It really alters their mood. It calms down a lot of the residents and relieves a lot of that anxiety, especially during sundowning.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a wonderful community. I do want to encourage anyone in the audience, if you have questions, to put them in the chat box. And we want to hear from you as well. These are pre-designed questions that just from years of experience of moderating these that I've had audience members ask. So please go ahead and make sure you put that in the chat. We'll go ahead and do another round of questions. Rachel, you kind of touched on this, and I'm glad you did, because it is the next question that was going to kind of linger to you, and then I'm going to bounce back to Rich. But just because we were talking about moving into the ECC license and skilled, there are several communities out there that have the option of memory care and skill, but when you're in a continuing care retirement community that don't allow the outside to come in. So talk to us about your skilled is open to long-term care and it is open to short-term rehabilitation. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. So like I said, depending on which contract would sign, the cost would depend on the contract. However, they have all levels of care here. So if they're independent living, they take a little tumble in their apartment. We have availability in our skilled, they can then rehab right in house. So we do have, again, that continuum of care.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a resident in order to take advantage of the rehab.
No. And our skilled is open to the public as well as our memory care, also our assisted living. We just hold apartments and services available to those that buy into the life care plan.
Yeah, as you should. Now, Rich, you made a little joke about took a spill in their apartment. I know that with your services, you have a program called Hospital to Home. Talk a little bit about that.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your Hospital to Home program.
Oh yeah, our Home Sweet Home program. And basically what that is we can pick you up, whether it's at a surgery center, a rehab facility, hospital, wherever you're getting, having an operation or anything done. We'll pick you up with a caregiver. We'll come and pick you up and then proceed to take you home and spend the next 3 hours with you at your most vulnerable time, cleaning out the fridge, booking follow-up appointments, picking up your medications, meal prepping for you. And it's really, if you think about what a transport would cost, they're going to charge you a lot of money and they're going to say hi and bye, and that's it. And what you get with our Home Sweet Home package is a caregiver that's going to sit there and attend to what your needs are at your most vulnerable time. And it's, we have different levels. We have 3 hours, we have 12 hours, we have 24 hours, and you can kind of separate the hours however you like. You can do 4 on one day, 4 on another, depending on what the hours are. But it's a real helpful program because, a lot of seniors have falls, or they're even scared to have operations because they don't have anybody to look out for them. So they're like, well, what if I go in and then how am I going to get around, or how am I going to be able to cook for myself, or how am I going to be able to do just household chores? So they decide to not do it, which is terrible because some of these seniors really need these procedures or surgeries or whatever it may be.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Now, I do want to, I'm going to bounce over to Mark, and thank you guys for bearing with me. We did have a question from the audience, and you guys are going to love my answer. I want to read it out loud. It was, if someone's interested in a certain type of senior living option that was displayed here, for example, independent living, but don't live in the area, what tips and tricks should they do in their research so they can find a similar facility that you represent? And I said they need to find a seniors blue book in their area.
That's it. Once you find seniors blue book, that's all you need.
Yeah. You're absolutely more than welcome to reach out to me. There are resources like seniors blue book. Really, we are nationwide, but there are some areas that don't actually have our particular publication, but I can help lead you in the right direction. All right. So Mark, we're going to bounce back over to you. I know we're covering the independent living sector, and a lot of people feel like they're going to be giving up their independence when they look into a senior living community. And now is really a great time to consider that because of socialization and social isolation, I should say, that we're dealing with right now. Talk to me about some of the amenities that are included, and some of the things that like, can you bring your car? Can you bring your pet? Things of that nature.
As I mentioned earlier, we're an all-inclusive community relative to the fee structure and the amenities we provide. But just quickly, in the independent living world, yes, you can bring your vehicle, your car. Yes, you can bring your pet to our community. We have many of our residents that have pets. Pets are fantastic as individuals are, going through life, and even just from a pure socialization standpoint, having a pet is a great friend. So yes, we're pet friendly. But just quickly, through the amenities and the services that are provided, our independent living residents receive, through our culinary dining experience, they receive one full meal per day in our beautifully renovated dining area. They can also get it delivered to their apartment if they prefer that. We also provide a continental breakfast daily for each resident. So, from a dining and a culinary standpoint, the bases are covered. We provide transportation for our residents if they do not have a vehicle and they do not want to drive to medical appointments. That's included in their monthly fee. Group transportation for shopping excursions, outings, that's also included in their monthly fee. Group activities. So we have an activities director who's here full time with a team of individuals that organizes events and activities, fitness, pool activities, pool fitness programs on a weekly basis. We also organize lectures and conferences at our community. So stimulation, from a lecture and conference standpoint. And then the most favorite one is weekly. We have happy hour events with entertainment that we provide for our residents. We also provide films, some cultural events, outside activities. So these are all things that are included within their independent living monthly fee. We also have on site a partnership with a geriatric group. Rizzi Geriatrics is our partner right now. We have a full-time nurse who is here in the independent living that can be a consultant that you can work with. So we've got a whole host of activities that are and amenities that are included.
Wonderful. Well, that's probably a little more than you're going to get at just another independent living community. So we'll use that as an example for Aston Gardens, but make sure you double check with whoever you're looking at if you're watching this from another state, which I think we do have some folks tuning in from other areas. But typically you're going to have independent living is going to have a slew of activities, and they'll have the pool and maybe putt. I think you guys have a putt course.
We have a small putting green, absolutely, that gets used on a weekly basis. So socialization, you touched on it before, Amanda, it is crucial to have activities where residents can socialize, specifically coming through this pandemic where we're at right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lonely, isolated individuals there, and our community can provide that.
I couldn't agree more. Now, Rachel's place has a bocce ball court. Isn't that right, Rach?
Yep. So similar, Mark. Bocce, tennis courts. They're playing tennis before I even get in the morning. I don't know what time they get up, but they're probably already at the match.
On a different
So,
schedule than we are.
Indoor pool, outdoor pool, bistro. You know, I always kind of make a joke and say, this is not your mother's nursing home. To me, it's a luxury lifestyle to live. And you have all the services that you would need.
Now, one of my favorite stories, and I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about this with Rachel. One of her residents is a perfect example of what a continuing care retirement community can do if you or your spouse need a higher level of care. I'm talking about Sheila with her husband. When you move into a CCRC and your spouse needs a significant level of care difference, and it's a type A contract, how does that work?
So he seamlessly moved throughout that progression. You know, her kids actually came into town and said, hey, and she tells the story beautifully, actually.
Probably better than you can, but
way better than I could, for sure. But she moved through that progression of where he did go into assisted living for a little while. However, she was able to visit every day. He then ended up being in skilled nursing for over 3 years. So with that being said, an average nursing home stay, and correct me if I'm wrong, is anywhere from $425 to $475 a day.
Yeah,
so
it's at least 11 to 15,000 a month. So I'm not good at math. Where's my math?
Yes. So she was able to utilize that service because they plan their future at a type A contract, and he was able to live his life here at the Terraces with his wife by his side. So that was actually a really beautiful, touching story. And she's one of my resident ambassadors. So if you'd like to attend an event, Sheila's usually speaking at them.
I said, Rich, where's my math teacher at? All right, Tammy, as far as assisted living communities go, I know that your amenities are quite similar. Your residents might not be playing tennis or necessarily bocce ball, but you still have a lot of activities. Talk to us about what's included in your monthly fee at an assisted living community.
Okay. It starts with 3 meals a day and all snacks. We have several happy hours a week. That's all included, and that's
love the happy hours.
They love their happy hours. Yep. We also, the basics, housekeeping once a week, laundry once a week. We include their cable and their internet. They have activities, not as many as you're talking about for independent, but they have brain classes, music classes. We just introduced dancing, line dancing, and ballroom dancing. We have a fitness center. We have a $3.5 million renovation going on, so we're pretty excited about that. We'll be finished at the end of April. Theater room, computer lab, fitness area is big, dog park, gardening, little garden for them to work in, walking paths. So they get a lot of activities. But their favorite ones center around some of the events we do. We do bring in large bands, and we've been bringing them into the outside in the portage.
Oh, nice. That's great.
So even in this social distancing, we've been able to get it done, and it's been nice, and they've had a lot of fun. They have to dance apart, which kind of stinks. But we have a few couples that get to dance, neck and neck. So it's nice. They have a nice life.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Tammy. All right, Melissa, I wanted to ask you, as far as memory care communities go, when would you no longer be appropriate to live in a memory care community, and what would your next step be?
That's a great question, Amanda, and it's often asked, actually. Our goal typically is to actually have them stay in their home in place, including through hospice care. But it's really going to depend on the licensure. And here at Inspired Living, we have an LNS, Limited Nursing Service License. So we can take care really of a whole gamut of needs here. As Tammy had mentioned before, very much like them, we can take care of complicated medication management. Folks that are insulin dependent on a sliding scale. Typically folks with Parkinson's will have a complicated medication regimen, all those types of things. People with catheters, ostomies, direct feeding, most everything, like I said. However, if they go with outside of the scope of our license, like if they had to have a feeding tube, we would no longer be able to take care of them, or if they needed a Hoyer lift, those types of things, which eventually will be sort of skilled nursing type, types of needs. But really, we find most of the time they're able to age in place. We bring in hospice that help them through the process and actually through end of life.
Absolutely. And even home care to help fill those gaps.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Appropriate to stay there, and you're not going to get in trouble. You can keep them there as long as, and you're going to ship them to Rachel if they need that skilled care right down the street at the Terraces. All right. Do you guys have any questions for each other? We're going to wrap it up here. Any questions from the audience? Just shoot us a chat.
Rachel, I actually have a question. So you have, I mean, and I had worked for a CCRC in Tampa, and where I worked, it used to be a little bit different, but the type, just for my own personal, curiosity, but the type A, typically when you're asking for that fee initially, is that like 10% of the apartment that they're buying? Like, how much of that does that typically cost? So if I have folks maybe that I can refer to you, I have a general idea, if they're looking for buy-in.
They would be buying it anywhere from 30. I think it starts at 340,000 and it goes up to 1.2. But yes, it is typically 10%.
Okay, great. That's kind of, I just wanted to get a general ballpark because, every CCRC is a little bit different. So the one that I came from in Tampa had both a buy-in and rental.
Right.
So we did both.
Well, and we do have the buy-in with IL, but we also do rental with our assisted living and our memory.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know.
We do both.
Okay.
It's a really great place to find this information.
Gosh, Amanda.
The Seniors Blue Book. All right, guys. Well, thank you